This is episode 18 of my Dark Aspects series, and the second part in my coverage of EarthBound Beginnings. Last time, I discussed the game's fascination with death, using it unabashedly as a means for storytelling. In this video, I'll be giving some more examples of that sentiment, as seen towards the end of the game, but first following the plot linearly, to look at even more censorship, weighty themes, and a few candidates for that higher age rating. To begin, there's a handful of censored enemies I didn't bring up last time, but are still worth mentioning. The first being Teddy, with his confiscated knife during the one-on-one with Nintendo, which is funny because he can still equip an assortment of knives and swords otherwise. More interesting though are the female robots Nancy, Kelly, and Juana. The original Japanese sprites are by no means crude, but America is easily offended, so what could be construed as nipples, I think that's the first time I've used that word in a video, are shadowed out. EarthBound Beginnings localizer Phil Sandhop himself reassures us that he personally has nothing against nipples, but says this in regard to the change. Quote, "They are robots and carry no function other than to suggest femaleness. Smoothing down the old sheet metal sounded like it'd be easier and look better than having them wear a top." Unquote. This is an unrelated but cool fact. These robots were actually renamed for the English version, in honor of lead staff members on the project. One of the scarier encounters, besides this hotel worker revealing himself to be a starman, is that of the fugitive, accompanied by a rope he likely used as a means for escape from wherever he was being held prisoner. In fact, many of these enemies look arguably more sinister than the creatures of EarthBound do, if they aren't the hilarious bear. Okay, I want this image on a t-shirt right now. The surprise factor of random encounters sometimes works to further fear as well. Enemy sprites didn't start appearing in the Overworld until the sequel, so like any RPG of its time, you truly never know what's coming next. This game doesn't feature battle backgrounds either, settling instead on a static black screen. So in some ways, while likely an inadvertent choice due to hardware restrictions, there's an added sense of discomfort. Paired with the music, these trippy sequences in the later two games can be unsettling. But utter darkness speaks for itself, and until party members start to join you, the game's starting areas feel lonely. Speaking of loneliness, remember the forgotten man I mentioned in the last video? Well, don't. He's supposed to be forgotten. So let's instead think of a different vanishing act from an individual that may very well be a ghost. This girl in Spokane proposes 3 hints for $1,000 each. If you decline her offer like I did, the girl disappears without explanation. It's nothing too noteworthy, but I wasn't expecting this at all, and it certainly felt at least a little eerie. Getting back on track though, passing back into reality for the first time from Magicant takes Nintendo to Marysville, home of the aforementioned Sawbones Benny, where a lady expresses her distaste in the Duncan Enterprises plan to build a strip joint in town. One other mention of a strip theater under construction in Mother was removed entirely, but the fact that this reference wasn't changed into a strip mall or something for Beginnings is fairly surprising. A description that certainly was censored though is that of abuse, found in that same town's elementary school. In EarthBound Beginnings, a student says, "The gym teacher made me do extra push-ups again. I'd rather do sit-ups though." In Mother, that child says something very different instead. "The gym teacher hit me. Maybe I should drop out and become a thug." This theme of writing around child abuse would be seen later in the series with EarthBound and a certain major character. Speaking of totally innocent children, further along in the game is the disconcerting Youngtown. Ever since the party first met Anna back in Snowman, it's been rumored that her missing mother was last seen here, with other whispers of adults traveling to Youngtown and never returning. What's worse is that many are unaware there's a problem at all, while those concerned have no way of knowing what's happened. Standard visitation isn't possible after all, as the train is indefinitely out of commission by way of the broken track. So when the party makes the dangerous trek here by foot in hopes of a reunion, optimism soon crumbles away when it is confirmed that all the adults have disappeared. Youngtown is the second furthest from the others on the map, isolated more so, of course, by the travel suspension. So nobody knows these kids are suffering out here all on their own. In following the plot, it can be presumed that their parents were abducted by Giegue's army, which is indeed verified at the end of the game. It isn't stated why exactly they're being held captive in these tubes. Their purpose in Mother 3 is specifically brainwashing, but regardless, this unsavory idea is a main theme present in every game. Getting back to the kids, they're obviously a bit traumatized and unsure of just what to do. The town is overgrown with weeds and unkempt foliage like the millions of abandoned Animal Crossing towns throughout the years. The children try to appear strong in conversation, but many of them do so in between sobbing, wanting Ninten and company to hold them, which is sad. The party, still being kids themselves, are the only reassurance these younger children have. But this is just one stop in the adventure. The gang has to pass through. Ninten can't save them yet, so it's anyone's guess as to just how long these kids are left alone. Lightening the mood a bit, in the next town over, a woman offers to buy Ninten a drink, specifically a beer in Tomato's translation, at the live house because he's cute. Answering no will have her chastise the party for being worried about cops, while yes will result in said cops coming in to arrest everyone for being underage. Though the adult that actually bought you the drinks is okay. Talk about corruption. What do you know? A relevant theme that is, again, present in all three games. Another music fan at the live house warns about the repercussions of peeking in the back room to the left of the stage. Ignoring this, the person inside will scold you to get out of their dressing room, calling Ninten a pervert in Mato's translation. Speaking of, it's clearer in Mother that this NPC is a peeping Tom. He can be caught looking through the window of a house that isn't his, claiming to be studying baths, interior architecture in EarthBound Beginnings, for a university project. General crime is clearly rampant in the bigger cities all throughout the game. It's especially prominent in Reindeer, and, well, where we got arrested, Valentine, localized as LA. You heard that right, LA, spelled out as a parody of Los Angeles. Outside of town is a secret isolated lab located past the Western Lookout Tower. It holds a group of scientists wanting to try out Strawberry Tofu. One of them will give Ninten swear words in exchange, a usable item in battle, causing the party member to curse out the enemy. All that's really read is "I hate you," but the implication that an adult taught these children bad words is still there. A little unrelated, but when creator Shigesato Itoi tried Strawberry Tofu in real life for the first time, he described the dessert as having a profound, saddening flavor, which I find hilarious. It's probably my favorite Itoi-related thing ever. With all these lesser details out of the way though, I am going to now start talking about major plot spoilers that finish up the game, so be warned if you've been a bad fan like me and have put off the game for this long. Found on the journey up Mount Itoi, en route to Giegue, is a robot guardian named Eve. Now, Eve was created by Georg to protect Ninten and his friends when the time came, likely set as a countermeasure for when Giegue's race would inevitably return. Even though Eve is just a machine, her sacrifice against an equally powerful robot is mournful. Her scraps provide the sixth melody not far from the summit, where the final piece of the song Ninten can collect is located. That would be George's gravesite, which allows the boy to communicate with his ancestor. Being in contact with the spirit of Ninten's great-grandfather through Eve, and then directly listening to his speech is heartfelt, perfectly setting up the emotional ride to come that is this game's ending. Presenting what's gathered of the song to Queen Mary back in Magicant, she is finally able to fully recite it. As this was what kept her spirit unable to pass on, the country of Magicant, which essentially acted as her purgatory, begins to dissipate with her singing until she's able to reunite with her husband in the afterlife. That means all of Magicant's inhabitants, while only a mirage born from Maria's mind, were very real to Ninten, are wiped from existence and can never be visited again. The party wakes up at George's gravesite, with the mountain peak entrance now opened. The sole remaining task then is to finally confront Giegue, now appearing by Mothership. As with every final boss in the Mother series, brute force can't be used to win, or any physical force at all for that matter. The only way to weaken Giegue is to sing back the melodies that kept Maria in limbo, the song his human mother used to sing to him as a baby. Ever since George stole information, presumably psi, that could be used against the alien race, Giegue was made to invade Earth and eradicate the threat to his people. However, it can be discerned that this isn't what Giegue truly wants. In a twist of fate, he offers to spare Ninten, and Ninten alone, as he owes a great deal to the boy's family line. But when the last link to his beloved mother refuses to join forces, he must proceed with the plan of destroying humankind. This leads to battle, but still gravely missing his mother, Giegue is overcome with feelings of sentiment and nostalgia in the form of her lullaby. Giegue is ultimately defeated by the power of a mother's love he'll never be able to get back. This causes his eventual retreat, with a vow to return once again. Like Giegue, I shall return once again as well. That's it for Dark Aspects of EarthBound Beginnings. But there's still 2 whole games in the franchise to cover. I do have a few unrelated projects uploading before then, but join me in the next Dark Aspects episode for a remake of my first video on the SNES Super Famicom Classic. Then once again for the finale, focusing on Mother 3. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you when Giegue or Giegus strikes back.